Hey, everybody, Carm Capriato, Remarkable Results Radio. And do I have a topic for you? Actually, it's not my topic, it's Dan Taylor's topic, but I love this topic. We're talking about the art of dispatch. I'm with Dan Taylor, Senior Business Advisor, TransformersInstitute.com. Hey, Dan.
Good morning, Carm. Good morning.
Good to have you here. Thanks for this topic. Can't wait to jump in it. Reggie Stewart is with us from Reggie's Motorworks, Noblesville, Indiana. A couple of shops, right? The Euro shop and the All Makes All Model shop.
Two general shops now.
Oh, two general.
Yeah,
God
two general
bless you.
plus a Euro.
Three
Three shops total.
Well, how come, hello. Oh, it's because one of them is so close to the other. I didn't quite see that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. I remember we did an episode on that, Reggie. Thank you. I think we called it Your Satellite or something. Well, glad to have you here. Two great people to come in here and talk about the art of dispatch. Now, I think it's like playing chess. That's all I could think about dispatch. And years back, I was passionate about this in my former life and how importantly you can run a great company and satisfy a customer experience by knowing what you can do with your assets, your people, your team, your decisions. So we've never done a podcast on this. When I was with Dan the last time, protecting your gross margin, with the whole emotional intelligence thing, Dan and I turned off the recorder. We sat here in the virtual studio for about an hour and created all these cool episodes. I can't wait to do them all, right? And one of them was this art of dispatch. And I said, I've never done one, but it is probably one of the most critical. It goes into this whole workflow thing, and we've done them on that. And there's people all over the country taking out workflow ideas to people, but I've never seen one. But, when you talk about it being artful, let's jump in this, guys. Some people are better at this than other people. Am I right, Dan?
Agreed, right? 100%. In fact, that's how Reggie and I got started about talking about this a couple weeks ago. He and I were discussing some other things, and I had shared with him a little bit of my past story, right? So not only college story of loading moving vans and understanding you only had so many cubic feet to get somebody's house in there in the trailer to move them across country. So that was the first lesson. But then, and I'm kind of wired like an industrial engineer anyhow. I very well could have went into that career and been very successful and engaged because I love this stuff. Then I worked for FedEx. And so you and I were talking about distribution before we got on the line, or sending out drivers on routes. It's a very parallel example. You have drivers with different skill sets, abilities, speed, and one of the things that where we got to this is this a natural aptitude or something that you learn? And I'll just leave this, and then I want Reggie to elaborate on it. When I've trained hundreds and hundreds of drivers to deliver routes, and some got it very natural. They always knew what direction they were going. They understood the grid, or they understood the flow of the numbers on the buildings up and down, which direction they were going. And then others literally had to memorize their entire route because they just couldn't seem to grasp that. Either way, you could get success. At the end of the day, that story, you can get success from anybody if you're willing to spend time teaching them how to do that. So, Reggie, thoughts on that from you?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not just dispatch. Of course, it's also scheduling, and they're interchangeable to some extent. In the shop environment, stacking things like boxes in a truck is something that I don't think it occurs naturally to everyone. But once you start looking at some of the other metrics, like your labor inventory and how much you want produced out of each technician on a daily basis, you start to realize, and then, like you said, using the strengths and weaknesses of your team and using virtual boxes to stack those jobs in there makes all the sense in the world. It's the only way to get true productivity capacity out of your shop.
Can this be taught?
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things that was brought up yesterday, and many of us have seen this, and if you haven't, you can certainly look up YouTube's, is the exercise where you have a glass bowl, and then you've got all these things you need to put into it, right? The big rocks, the pea gravel, the sand. And if you start with the sand first, and then because it's the easiest, and then you put in the gravel, you will never get the boulders in. Right. And one of the things that we talked about extensively in an extended meeting yesterday with multiple store managers was you got to have the boulders going first. However, certain shops have too many big boulders, right? These big, huge jobs, and then it clusters. I mean, it really causes log jams. The art part of it is you can only put so many boulders in. And then we also talked about how far over the horizon do you look with these big jobs. And that's parts, dependent, engines, and all the other things that we're doing. In fact, a lot more engine work than we have the last period of time. And I think we were talking about this before we got online, that there seems to be some pretty strong hints that the psychology of the consumer nationwide is more in this retractive, receptive to the fact that things have slowed down a little bit and much more protective with their dollars. So now we do have bigger jobs in the shop. And what do we do with these? Yeah, I think you can certainly, some of these things are word pictures that you have to help people. When I was describing loading moving vans you start with columns you put the dresser drawer in, and then you have to put chairs on top of it, stacking them up. And then I went through the whole exam. He's like, I never saw that before. And I said, but your shop literally has the same example, right? You've got big jobs. And then.
Hey, it's no secret. We're facing a technician shortage, and Napa Auto Care has a solution with the Napa Auto Care Apprentice Program. The program was pioneered by one of our own. Pete McNeil and Master Technician Jeg Sorensen from McNeil's Auto Care in Sandy, Utah, realized that the problem of not having technicians available for hire was not going to solve itself and decided to take action and look at a different audience of individuals available for hire. A focus was put on younger individuals with the right passion, desire, and attitude to work in the automotive repair industry. Jake and Pete sought after these individuals and developed a technician apprentice program to give them the training needed to become a successful technician in today's world. The Napa Auto Care Apprentice Program includes a comprehensive 9-stage curriculum that includes a variety of types of training, and they are classroom training videos exclusive to the apprentice program. Now, these videos provide in-depth training from a successful master technician. Also, Autotech classes with instructor-led courses offered through Napa Autotech and Autotech e-learning. This web-based e-learning is designed to target specific training topics. And finally, hands-on learning. The apprentice will apply the skills gained from the classroom training videos, Autotech instructor-led training, and Autotech e-learnings in the shop with the guidance of a mentor. The apprentice program curriculum is competency-based, meaning an apprentice can move through each stage at a pace that best suits them. Most apprentices complete the program within 2 years. Upon completion, apprentices will have earned ASE G1, A4, A5, and AC certifications, adding industry validation to the skills an apprentice acquires. Look, having an apprentice in your shop will ultimately benefit your bottom line as they advance through the program. And in most cases, as the apprentice develops their skill set producing billable hours, you'll begin to see a growth in your gross profit by stage 5. One of the largest barriers to entry for individuals looking to enter the automotive repair industry is the cost of tools. Now, keep your apprentice motivated with an apprentice toolkit. Now, Napa Auto Care has worked with our supplying partners to offer an exclusive comprehensive tool set, including a 4-drawer tool cart for all registered apprentices. Hey, to learn more, members can visit member.napaautocare.com. I have this wild idea, Dan, Reggie. My wife can stack a dishwasher like nobody else that I know.
Yeah.
And she can pack a box. She could move a house so efficiently, telling the movers what to do, what name on every box. Maybe the test on the quality of a good dispatcher is to have them stack a dishwasher.
Right.
Yeah, here's 10 pounds, put it in a 5-pound bag.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can do it.
As far as like the training somebody to do it, I think the first step is front of mind awareness to teach your service advisor or dispatcher or manager why it's important and how it's important. And I think that's where a lot of us miss the whole thing. We either assume they know or because a lot of times we get so focused on car count. We need cars. We bring cars in. We bring 10 cars in for one technician, but they're all oil changes or diagnostic testing cars. And when you pile those on somebody, they can't get 8, 10, 12 hours of production that we're looking for. Because if they're going to do the oil change, do a complimentary digital vehicle inspection and estimate that work, You give a tech 5, 6 cars, he's done for the day and he's going to bill 3 hours. And then the next day, yes, that's going to lead to sold work, but it's not stacked efficiently like the boulders and the rocks and the sand. You end up with these big gaps of time, or one particular guy that has the wrong type of work stacked in his column, and he can't hit his goals or the goals that we collectively set for each other in the company.
Yeah, and even using the dishwasher word picture, which is awesome. If you have 10 people over for a Thanksgiving dinner, what do women or guys? I mean, I end up cleaning up. I say, if you cook, I'll clean up. What do we naturally do or try to do, right? If you stick all the pots in there, then there's no room for the plates. So what we'll do is segregate them, right? We segregate them. We put a bunch of plates in there, and then we oftentimes will hand wash the pots or the different things that were used utensil wise, and then set those aside to dry, right? Because to your point, Carm, I mean, that's an excellent word picture that everybody should be able to kind of get their head around. Well, you can't stick all the pots in there because there won't be room for anything else. So to elaborate on what Reggie just shared, we've got to figure out how to put a couple pots in there, and then some pan or some dishes, and make sure we got the bowls in there and then obviously the dishwasher does a great job, as do a lot of point of sale systems. Actually, the dishwasher set up where you should put all your glasses and bowls on the top roller thing, whatever that is, and then the bigger stuff usually goes on the bottom.
So you want to wash as many dishes as possible in the mentality, right? Stuff that puppy with every piece of silverware and dish that you can, and what is extra, we will find another plan for it. But then I couldn't help but, in these word thoughts of mine, figure that, doesn't it really start on the phone and scheduling?
Absolutely. Without question. You have to know what each technician is, A, what we're expecting out of each technician on a daily basis, and B, what they're capable of, in order to give them a mix of work that is going to allow them to be both. We need production each day, so we need to be completing sold work, but we also need to fill the pipeline for the next day. So we need to have that oil change or that diagnostic testing ticket, but it's got to be a balance that allows that technician, if that technician's goal is 40 hours a week, we have to look at them on a daily basis and make sure we schedule them for probably more than 8 hours per day to account for a broken dish, something that the client that doesn't show up. So we have to overschedule a little bit, but yeah, scheduling is its own incredible art.
Absolutely. I had the doctor's appointment yesterday for my tennis elbow. And sure enough, right, you think about the analogy between our business, and we're a professional business, just like the doctors, the dentists, everybody else. And doctors and dentists do this. They partially overlap. They also use 15-minute intervals. A lot of times we use a 30-minute interval. And this actually came up in yesterday's conversation with the leaders, was we have to intentionally, now I know this because I used to do consulting in the whole medical field. I had orthopedic doctors and physical therapists and dentists and everybody else. They know there's a 10 to 15% no-show rate, no matter what you do, like multiple text messages and all that stuff. They also overlap and overload to a small degree, right? We want, just like Reggie said, if you need a guy to have 8 hours, we need to book 10. Because you're going to have a little, and then it just becomes boldness and interaction and requests with the clients of what we need to do to accommodate everybody. And not everybody's going to get their car back perfectly. And so some people have this, and I do too, OCD mindset that everybody's got to go perfect every day. There should always be overflowing work in a shop that you unfortunately have to call Mr. Jones or Mrs. Smith and say, you know what, we ran into a snag, and unfortunately we're not going to be able to get your vehicle back today, but I can make a strong commitment to you that tomorrow we'll have your vehicle ready for you by noon or whatever that case is. But we have to overload the schedule.
And if you have really awesome technician team, they'll just consume it anyway and they'll get it done.
Which goes back to Parkinson's law, which says you fill the space that you put the work in. Whether it's 8 hours or 6 hours, that space is going to get filled with exactly what you put in it.
So there's the art and the science of this whole thing. It almost reminds me of the art in dealing with the customers and the science in dealing with the assets that you have, and assets including your people. Mm-hmm. Now, does our team in the back, Reggie, Dan, really respect the kind of chess we're playing at the counter?
I would say yes. In fact, I would say they're the ones that are the most frustrated when we're not doing it right up front. Because you're telling me whether I'm flat rate or however I'm getting paid, there's some expectation that I'm going to create this amount of hours or dollars per day. And if you don't give me if you don't serve it to me so that I can complete it, then it's really frustrating. And sometimes I will just say in my own shops in my younger days and not being involved in transformers and before I got to a higher level, I would blame the technicians for having poor production. And it was really my fault or my front end's fault for not giving them. They can't win if we don't give them the right stack of work.
Can I elaborate real quick? Because now I get passionate because Reggie's absolutely right. With all these guys and gals that I interact with all over the country, the first thing is the finger gets pointed at the back. And I'm like, whoa, 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 right? And there's a lot of variables that come into play that determine whether someone can be productive with the work that they're given. And even in yesterday, I did a quick survey, and it's actually on the list that I know you'll be posting as far as an outline of this topic. I asked 7 different managers, how much does the front end influence the capability of the back producing what we're asking them to do? And the lowest score was 50%, and the high was 80, with somewhere between 65 and 75%. They owned it. Their owners, their managers, and sales guys, they're responsible for sales, service advising. They have a responsibility to generate revenue. And 7 guys, just quick survey, they all agreed that at least 2/3 was really on them, on the communication with the customer, getting the parts, understanding the chess game or the dishwasher or whatever we're trying to play. So yeah, we love to blame the person that's actually doing the work. And a lot of times it absolutely falls on the other portion of that interaction.
Agree, Reggie?
I absolutely agree. Yeah, absolutely. It is. Again, I mean, I reiterate a little bit, but if I don't have, I think you could take the highest production tech in the world, a guy that turns 100 hours a week. And if you don't stack his schedule right, he's not going to get there.
All right.
And we don't have a time machine. Like if I don't get the 10 hours a day today, and tomorrow I'm only capable of 10 hours, but if I only get 6 today, and I get my 10 tomorrow, I can't go back and get the 4 that I lost. Like it's going to be very difficult for me to turn 14 the next day if I'm a 10-hour guy. So we have to do it it's got to be we have to be mindful every single day, not every single week, because once a day is gone, it's gone.
Reggie, how often are you sitting down with front and back, and maybe it's weekly meetings, maybe it's every 2 weeks, monthly meetings, and having dispatch or workflow or assignments brought up and having both sides have these aha moments with each other?
In all 3 of our stores, we have a weekly lunch meeting that's led by the store manager, and then we have daily huddles as well. Daily huddles is where we discuss it on a daily basis.
Okay.
Everybody gets a route sheet, and they know what's on their schedule for the day.
And if there is a issue or a problem, say, why am I doing this and you should be doing this? I mean, are we listening to the technicians, and are we making adjustments?
When we're successful, we are.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me, this whole thing reminds me of a cohesive operation that's just running like, warm butter, slicing through, getting everything done, team play. And that dispatcher, shop manager, service advisor, who is ever that individual who's making the assignment and, giving the salute and sending that work order, that car into those bays, hoping he's made some really good decisions, needs to work with feedback.
Absolutely. Tracking daily labor inventory is something that makes the biggest difference in the world. And this, we've implemented a dry erase board that comes from another Transformers coach, Troy Kaplan, in all 3 of our stores. That is really, it's bringing that front of mind awareness to the managers, the techs, the service advisors, everybody in the store. Everybody has an expected number of production hours per day, and now everybody in each store knows how many hours the techs have to be scheduled in order to make those goals. And when you're accountable daily, you get the job done a lot better than when you're not. It's all accountability. I
love where this discussion has gone. I so appreciate this. Now, Dan, you sent me this incredible list of variables. And to me, I think there'd be so much value value for our listener to hear the discussion on these. For example, the volume of work, mix of work, and what about walk-ins? Let's talk about all these.
Carm, walk-ins, it's critical that we would accommodate those folks as much energy and time and resources that we spend trying to get people to understand, to recognize us and think of us as a viable service provider. We've got to figure out one way or the other to try to get those folks accommodated. Maybe not at that exact second, but certainly, boy, engage with them, do everything you could to get that car in. And maybe they have to wait a little bit longer, and you explain that to them or whatnot. Reggie probably has a little bit more to add to that as well.
Walk-ins are, if we're scheduling to maximize every single technician's productivity for the day, walk-ins are incredibly difficult. Like, we can't afford to have somebody just standing around waiting, obviously. But like Dan said, it's how we deal with that walk-in customer. Maybe it's, in some cases it's a loaner car. If we have loaner cars, totally different subject and topic, but that's a great way to get the car to stay there and really wow that customer. Sometimes it's a shuttle ride to wherever they need to be so we can buy ourselves some time. And, if it's a maintenance, if somebody's walking in looking for an oil change, in my shops, we currently are very rarely able to do something like that. But that is a time to give them a shop tour, show them why they want to come to our shop, and schedule it for a later time.
Makes all the sense in the world, and it flows into that 5 to 15% of cancellations. But and again, but if you're trying to make this place run like a well-oiled machine, walk-ins, which is why everyone talks about they have these beautiful showrooms, but they don't want waiters. And
the pandemic certainly had an impact on that, right? We didn't want people staying. And now we see maybe a little bit of reversion back to that, where we want to accommodate some people for short periods of time. Yeah, that's another interesting topic. Let me reverse roles. What do you think of that, Carm?
What do I think of waiters?
Yeah.
Well, here's what I think. The only reason you'd have a waiter is if I was working from home and I only had one vehicle and I really needed to bring it down and I had no way to get back. So I'm going, if you've got the place where the Wi-Fi is and the upright desk that I could work at, I guess I'm going to hang out. But to me, there's a button, there's this dial that says how long will I be willing to really wait that doesn't, in my mind, inconvenience me. And no matter what I tell the service advisor, you think it can be done in a couple of hours? And he doesn't tell you the honest to God truth because he's juggling all the other stuff in the back of the bays. And now it's 2 hours and I haven't seen my car move into the bay. I'm upset. Which goes back to the Uber, listen, if it's an oil change for $99, but you know that this is a great customer, there's so much more work, you're doing maintenance, you got to invest, or you have the loaner fleet. But one way or the other, everyone keeps telling me, we got to get them out of the building so we can live within our regiment. Right. Regiment?
That's right. As far as like true walk-ins, like people who just show up, I honestly don't have a lot of experience with that because my locations are they're not A retail locations. Like, I think if you're in one of those like super high traffic areas, you tailor your business differently to accommodate that customer because it's probably a larger part of your customer base.
Walk-ins, you mean?
Yes, walk-ins.
Amazing stuff. All right. Toting cars, calls with broken cars, and the ability to lay the work out to my people based on their capabilities, abilities, their tech knowledge. All of these are critical if you're playing chess with your daily workload.
When you packaged all those together, those are really the one-offs, the anomalies, because I think a lot of our businesses are set up with some kind of scheduling, right? It's not one broken car after another, and we're just relying on people to come in. And back to what we talked about, the regiment or cadence of the business, so much of it's a mindset, right? The business is coming. You got to get ahead of it. You have to constantly have something in the pipeline, communication, accommodation. One of my colleagues, this is all he does is he trains on how do you overcome these objectives, the sense of urgency with client in front of them, the empathy in front of them to make them feel important. At the same time, you're already at 120% capacity and back. So how do we bridge that? How do we bridge that? And how do we make sure the client knows that we care about them as well? And like Reggie mentioned a minute ago, loaner cars, we'll give you a ride, figure out something. But one way or the other, we got to keep that broken car here. That's revenue for us. That's an opportunity for us. Then when you get to the other stuff, communication, over and over. And it's the rhythm, it's the cadence of those conversations, it's the conciseness of the conversation without mixing words. It's built on trust. I mean, I'll let Reggie elaborate on all that, because I know after we had this conversation several weeks ago, he's spent a lot of time in his shops talking about all this stuff. So
yeah, I'm going to sidestep just for a minute because I don't want to miss this thought is culture. The culture of your technicians and when you're scheduling, something that, again, I've overcome in at least one of my shops is that at one point in time, if you're a flat rate technician and you find the work and estimate the work, there's some presumption that you're going to get the work. But that can create its own scheduling or dispatch problem, because what if you have one technician that diagnoses everything and he's got 2 weeks worth of work, and you've got another technician who hasn't gotten that particular workload and he's sitting on his toolbox waiting for somebody to show up? We have to create a culture in our shops that we're okay passing work around, even if you didn't diagnose it or didn't find it on the inspection. Ideally, yes, if you did the inspection and you got a $8,000 ticket or 20 hours on something, you should get that. But if you're already booked, then I got to give it to the next. And what I don't want is negativity from that decision.
Are you flat rate?
We are a modified flat rate. Yes.
Okay.
We're
So
not
it's
a feast or famine.
so it's easier to move work around.
Absolutely.
See.
Absolutely.
And I guess if you really wanted to be good at workflow, productivity, customer experience, the right culture sits up on top of that. I'm with you, Reggie. You're probably going to get a lot of fights if you start moving things around that someone was anticipating they were going to get.
You could, but if you're making the commitment to give the guy his hours every day, each person, they all, like, if you're a 10-hour a day guy, if I give you a commitment to give you your 10 hours every single day, and maybe it's not the 10 hours you estimated because of the way the cards fell or the way the chess pieces got played, what's your beef at that point?
Yeah.
What could your frustration even be? If I give you your 50, 60-hour week and I lay it all out for you on a silver platter, then it doesn't matter as much.
Yeah. I got a question about training. Listen, shop owners that are in the top 20% today realized a long time ago they needed a coach and they needed training and they needed to learn HR and finance and all that stuff that they could look back to and says, I got my little mini MBA from my network and my coaches, and now I'm with it. And then paralleled to that in the entire industry has been technician training, the right way to do it, daytime, paying for it as tuition, all that stuff. It's legacy stuff. But then of the last, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years, service advisor training, phone skills, selling skills, relationship building skills. Is dispatch being taught, Dan, by Transformers?
not until now, but it sure is going to be moving forward. And no, this has been really an eye opener for all of us. I mean, everybody I've talked to said, wow, as far as the business acumen, understanding the logistics of the chess game or the dishwasher, we have not done a very good job. I couldn't be more humble than I missed it too. And part of the reason why I missed it, and I keep getting this wake up call, because I'm a generalist, I see a lot of things and I've been in a lot of industries. I see it, and then therefore I assume the other guy sees it. And I am finding out over and over again, great that I saw it, and then there's other things they see that I don't see. I mean, it's just the way life seems to work out. There's going to be a huge emphasis from us moving forward on this art/teachable skill set of dispatch and optimizing it. And it's going to be nonstop we are going to continue to beat the drum until people understand the importance of this, because we talk about, all these KPIs, we talk about production, we talk about all this stuff. At the end of the day, if we're not doing this particular one really, really well and very attuned to it, then all the rest of the numbers, the lag measures, are all going to be affected in a negative way.
I agree. And Dan, I think that I will say myself too, this is a new emphasis for me, at least a new front of mind emphasis. And I think a lot of us in the industry have not put as much emphasis on it as we should have, just because we didn't. Again, the assumption, like some of us see it and some of us don't. And I don't know about you, but I'm very guilty of, if I get something, I just assume everyone around me gets it. It's a bad weakness of mine. And now that I know that not everybody sees it, I can put more emphasis on talking about it and educating to it.
I have to tell you something. My brain doesn't stop, and I'm always inspired by my guests. They come on and I just dream in crazy places as I'm so into the discussion. So here's my big takeaway from this last 5 minutes. Someone needs to create a simulator, a real live shop simulator. Here's the customers, here's the walk-ins, here's, if you will, my dispatch table, here's the strength of my techs. And I get this half-hour introduction into the simulator, and I go in, and then after an hour and a half of playing store for real, I get a rating, and then I go back at it again. Now I'm smarter and I understand, and all this stuff is getting thrown at you. And if it's not a computer simulator, it could literally be in a training class, almost role play-ish simulator thing, Dan, because
Absolutely.
You can teach people how to move the knight and the queen and the castle and all that stuff. But until you get the board really playing,
Right.
you'll never feel how that movement works.
It's all hypothetical, right? Yeah. So you got store managers that used to be technicians or shop foremen. They see it through their lenses, and then you got the service advisor who's motivated by maybe part of their compensation on, I got to get the cars in, I got to sell. But they all have to work in conjunction, right? It's a symbiotic relationship with everybody in the building. So if we're not all on the same page, I think what happens is we work hard, we don't work smart. And if we can step back a half a step, and I think this is what this whole lesson has been for me for sure, is wait a minute, we got to slow down, because we are trying to just shove cars through buildings. This is not the most effective way of doing this. I'm not a proponent of let's turn customers away, but I am a huge proponent of let's be smart. Let's work smarter, not harder. The younger generations are very much in tune with this, right? They are the simulator kids, right? They've been playing on video games for decades. I'm not that guy, but I saw it in real life. So the real life application, and to your point, Carm, we can expedite somebody learning the skill set if we can simulate it, whether it be training, computer program, role playing over and over again. Now, what are you going to do? What are you going to do now? Right now, there's a toe in. Love the idea. Absolutely fascinating.
Reggie, all of a sudden, there's this black envelope that comes into the simulation team, and it says that Charlie was called home for a school crisis. Or are you aware that tomorrow we have one person on vacation? And all of these things that come at you. And so you may not have the moment in time to make a decision, but by the end of the day, as you think about tomorrow, because tomorrow is a huge factor in today, is to, what assets do we have to really satisfy our customers? I would love to be on that team to come up with the crazy things that could go wrong in life and business every day, because it is something, guys. As hard as we think we could make our day perfect, it just comes at us in every way we can possibly get it.
Absolutely does.
Let me add one more thing, and this is very complementary to this entire industry. I worked for FedEx. I've worked for other organizations that they had very parallel dynamics, workforce, labor hours, or ability to do certain things in a certain period of time. This industry, with all the variables of the consumer, our reliance on parts, the ever-changing ebb and flow of life, this is much more complex. It is really hard to do this business. And it's much harder than other businesses that have less variables involved. And I do want to give huge kudos to everybody in this industry. This is hard stuff.
It is.
This whole dispatch stuff is hard stuff.
Wait a minute, Reggie, it never, ever was hard. until we really. It never was hard because we just went in every day and we played store as a hobby. And whatever it is that happened, it happened. And whatever fell off the table fell off. And we came home and we wake up tomorrow, we just do it again. And we actually say a quick prayer to hope that, can I get by this day without any screaming customers and peoples? But we are becoming more sophisticated. We are managing KPIs that equate to our bottom line, that build wealth, that help us grow and find career paths to people. Why not include this art and science piece in the entire conglomerate we call success?
Oh, absolutely. It has to be. We have to put this as a huge piece of our training and our emphasis. And I'll go back to culture a little bit. There also has to, not only is it like trained technically, but we have to have such a well-oiled team mentality that we work with each other to do this. It's one person is in charge of dispatching, but everybody else has to be able to catch the ball and run with it and not complain and understand that we are all working together to accomplish the goals instead of one person.
I just can't help but think of the Star Trek quote, "The final frontier." Really, think about, I mentioned it a little bit back, all the different training, leadership skills that we've brought together, be it EOS, be it COO groups, all of that stuff. And right under our noses, getting really good at, I'll tell you, Dan and Reggie, you're going to look inside of Transformers and find some incredible dispatchers that exist in the companies you deal with. Mm-hmm. And you're going to actually probably bring them in part and parcel to helping us design a curriculum or a training event. Where did you learn? Why are you so good at this thing? And learn from them. And you're going to find that they have these certain kinds of personalities, the dishwasher stacker, who could listen, who's ever moved a house in the most efficient way possible?
Right.
Me. Oh, can you dispatch for me? It's like we go out and look for a service advisor who's in hospitality, right? Let's go hire our store manager, our shop foreman that came from FedEx, Dan, right?
Yeah, right. Because they're already been exposed to it. Huge emphasis here. We can train this skill set.
Right. Right.
But as Reggie said earlier, front of mind, one, we've all realized in this call, I'm so excited myself. Wow, this is an opportunity for all of us, right? Because there are some really great guys and gals that do this naturally. What can we extract from them and continue to refine this where we can train the next person, simulation or role playing or, communication? Because I think you're absolutely right, Carm. There are guys that do a great job, and one of them is John Long. But John Long, and I love John, I'm very tight with him. My guess is he hasn't always been able to transfer that very natural aptitude over to the next person. And so then what happens is we run out of steam. And then the next guy, well, he's not doing. And this is a skill set, just like every FedEx facility, every UPS facility. You talked about distribution and parts and all that stuff. It's very logical. I get so frustrated a couple of years ago with my trash delivery pickup. They sold out. I finally called the regional manager. I said, here's my background. I don't understand why you're not starting with the furthest route out and working your way back to your location. You guys are doing it the opposite way. We're at 5 o'clock in the evening and your guy runs out of time and our trash doesn't get picked up. And he thanked me. He said, you know what? You're absolutely right. I have this thing inverted. I got to flip this around. We have to start at the longest route out and move our way back in. And I'm sure there's tons of parallels in our own industry that we haven't even identified in this conversation or on the outline that you will post.
Yeah, I can't wait to see this evolve to become a huge part of what's going on inside of our industry. Now, there's one other thing that you sent me. I can't end until we talk about the Eisenhower matrix. And if there's anything that we can give to our people before we end, and that is to try to figure out what we do with the decisions that we make every day.
Yeah, Eisenhower is the guy that came up with that matrix. I did some more research because Covington oftentimes will get credit for it, and he reintroduced it. But it's just a simple quadrant matrix of important and urgent, unimportant and urgent, unimportant and not urgent, and then what's the last one I'm missing?
Urgent,
not urgent or important.
Yeah. So anyways, obviously you can Google that stuff. There's tons of them. I saw something that Frank Scandura did one time where he actually had he trained his managers with this. He put every single scenario in there. Like the bathroom isn't clean. Well, that's important, but not terribly urgent at the moment.
Yeah.
We are short car count, right? That is important and urgent. That needs immediate attention. So to your point, Carm, I think we can probably fill in a matrix, the urgent and important matrix with dispatch and reverse engineer it, and then help someone make the right priorities during the day as they go through that, right? For example, the walk-in, that's super important, but not urgent, right? Versus the person we committed to getting their vehicle done by, 1:00 this afternoon. They're, a single mom only has one car. It's a relatively easy job. We just need to do boom, 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 and we're done. We've done it a million times. That would take precedence over the one that just walked in, for example. So we can certainly come up with a predictable model of how we would prioritize our work. And that's a lot of what happens with other organizations that have to figure out distribution is you do have to prioritize. And I know that was also not mentioned, but we need to prioritize customers too, as far as scheduling. The person that has done $20,000 with us and is basically hands us the key, they are truly more important than the person that just walked in that needs an oil change.
They are urgent and important.
Absolutely.
You almost need a flow chart. Like at what point for us, one of our shops, the question was, what is more important, a new customer or work that's already been sold? And that's in the Euro shop. And sometimes the new customer got the important slot, but because our customers have in the Euro shop, a lot of times customers, they're not in a hurry to get their car back. But from the business standpoint and cash flow standpoint, now I've got sold work sitting out in the lot and we keep just adding to it. And then we have a week that's not great financially that, again, I don't have a time machine. I can't go back and get it. And yeah, we brought in these new customers and I'm super thankful for them. And I'm glad we made a good impression, but there's got to be a balance there.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Here's my mind. Number one, I'm going to call Frank and have him come on and share his list with the rest of the world. Number two, we're going to do more of these episodes, Dan, as you and Reggie figure out how to take this thing and make it live and happen. And number three, I want anyone who's listening to this that is like so good at dispatching to call me or write to me and let's get you on, talk about the critical nature of how successful your dispatching is and where did it come from and how is it evolving and how are you making it a large part of your customer experience and the culture of your company. I mean, I'm thrilled to have done this episode and hopefully motivated some people to take the art and science of dispatching to a new level.
Carm, I'll say what I said to you in the email. If you get really good at this, you're going to be looking for car count because you're going to go through your cars a lot faster. It's great for your bottom line. But the next thing is you go listen to one of Carm's podcasts on marketing because, and I've experienced this, you get really good at this and you run out of cars because your capacity goes up.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing, Reg?
It's an awesome thing.
Yeah.
It exposes the next challenge, but that's awesome. I mean, that's what makes this fun.
It makes you realize never take your foot off the marketing gas pedal ever.
Absolutely. And I would say if you're a shop owner and you have been beating your head against the wall like I used to, I would go to trainings and I would hear these guys that they're, all of their techs are 100% productive. And I was struggling to get 70. And I thought either these guys are lying or what am I doing wrong? And this is one of the things I was doing wrong. I strive for 120% productivity at this point, and we hit it a lot of the time. The goal, and that's for the entire team, not just one guy. It's very doable, but this is a huge piece of the equation to get there.
Wow, no doubt. Dan, any final word?
Volume moves volume. The marketing and this particular topic, they coexist, right? We have to have cars coming in, and it's easier the more cars you have to try to figure this out, this Tetris game or chess game, or, think about the dishwasher, right? Instead of just loading it once, wouldn't it be nice to load it 2 or 3 times because you had that much business, right?
Wow.
What? Here we go. Now we got another load. Well, I got this odd baking pan. Well, that goes in the second load, right? I mean, it just makes the whole game easier. But I love the fact that we're talking about next level execution for all our peers. And as you know, I just want to help people succeed.
Yeah,
and win.
yeah.
And so do you, Carmen. I know Reggie does,
Yeah.
as he coaches several clients and has his own shops. We all want to win. I mean, everyone's been on winning teams, and this is reducing turnovers, to use a sports vernacular. This is getting the first downs, right? If we can get this dispatch thing and scheduling thing just amplified up on the conscientious level, we will win. We'll start winning more often, and it's cool because then it gets really exciting for everybody.
I would maybe have said in the past, let's go out and manage dispatch better, but that would be the wrong word to say, manage. We need to go out and say, let's lead through to our team how the art and science of dispatch. And I don't think you're going to manage, because manage is putting fires out. Leading is showing people where the value is and why it matters and who needs to take charge. So this was great. I mean, this was, again, another one of those deep think episodes that, Dan, you promised me you would bring me like often. So, and we're back and forth with a whole bunch of other really great titles. I wish I can talk about them now, but we'll just keep the audience at bay and keep them thinking and guessing. This was great. The Art and Science of Dispatch with Dan Taylor, from the Senior Business Advisor at Transformers Institute, and Reggie Stewart, Reggie's Motorworks, Noblesville, Indiana, and a Transformer coach. Yes. Thanks, guys. Enlightening. This is going to be a gem episode. Appreciate you being here.
Awesome.
Thanks, Carm.
Thank you. This was awesome.